Now that is something, if you remember, we saw God say to David 20 years earlier. Right? God anointed David as the king. Even when Saul was still the king, David was anointed king, and God said to David, you will be king over my people. That was 20 years earlier. Through all the wilderness, though, all the trials, all the exile, the caves, the threats coming on David's life, here, it was finally fulfilled. After all that time, after all that journey, it was finally fulfilled. The shepherd boy had become the shepherd king. God's design is always perfect. We're gonna put up that chart again. This is the overview of 2 Samuel. We'll use it most every week, and so if you miss it, you'll be able to catch it again some other time. But here's what it's showing. It's showing that we are just into that second phase where God has moved David and the kingship and the throne from Hebron now to Jerusalem. 7.5 years in Hebron, now 33 years in Jerusalem. And that's important to know because that was the place God had picked for his temple, his place. But it's not just that he moved David there. What we start to see also, this is verse 10 of chapter 5, David became greater and greater, for the Lord, the God of hosts, was with him. The blessing of God on David. Again, anointed 20 years earlier, he's finally the king now. God is with him because his heart is for him, and so now we see it finally come to pass. Here's the point. The way David handled those 20 years shows us that we are to worship as we wait on God. Worship occurs as we wait. It's not just we'll worship later, it's worship as we wait patiently. In the middle, it's worship. Psalm 37, verse 7 says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. How hard is that though, right? Our flesh chafes at the slowness of God's clock. Like we don't want to wait for anything, let alone wait 20 years to fulfill the promise that God had made. But notice something, the waiting, the 20 years of waiting didn't make David bitter, it made David better. It refined him, and we watched his journey through 1 Samuel, how God was refining him and testing him and growing him. That was in preparation for this moment. Maybe for you, it's waiting on a spouse. Where, you gratefully haven't made it an idol. You have a good desire, but you're still waiting. Just ask the question, what is God doing in your heart right now? What is he doing in you to prepare you? Regardless of the end, what is he doing in you right now? Or maybe you're waiting on a resolution to your health issues, or to a relationship struggle and it's just taking longer than you thought it would and you can't get any answers and all this stuff, and you're just waiting. What's God doing in the middle of it? Look to the Lord, worship him as you wait. Or you're waiting on a job that aligns with your values. You've had a couple opportunities, but you think, man, those are unethical, and you're just waiting on God's right one to align with what you are about, and you watch the savings dwindle in the process. You're waiting. What do you do with that? You look to the Lord. Ask the question, what is God doing in my heart? What does he need to refine in me? How is he working in me as I wait?